Welcome back to the channel, y'all. So I'm working on the Fiero today. I'm gonna install some pretty easy parts, but first I'm gonna ask a question. Do you have a Fiero GT with the 5-speed Getrag transmission? If so, are you happy with the way it shifts? If not, this video may be for you, so stay tuned. Okay, so what we're installing today is the Rodney Dickman Getrag Ultimate Shift Kit. It's really just two pieces, the slave cylinder slash shift cable bracket and the shifter arm. Okay, the other thing I'm installing is the Getrag Select Shaft Rebuild Kit, which is just this pin. Pretty self-explanatory. If you're already taking this apart, it's not that much more. The shift kit comes with instructions for Rodney. There's not really much to it because it's actually fairly simple. Okay. I'll tell you what. We will, right here, will be, yeah, right about now. We'll do the what tools are required. Okay, so this is pretty much everything I needed for this job. I did end up needing a cheater pipe, which is my handy jack handle. You need a flathead screwdriver. I just used an 11 way. Pair of pliers if you need it to get the cotter pins out. I did use a little old hammer I had to tap off the shifter arm. Need an Allen wrench. I don't remember exactly what size this is. I can look. And it appears to be a 5/32. Couple 3/8 ratchet, an extension. I don't even remember if I use this. You need a 15mm socket. I'm sorry, I'll do this upsizing. A 10mm socket, a 13mm socket, 15. I use two different sizes 13s because it makes it easier having a short one on some of that stuff. Some of them you do need a long one. Then for that big bolt, you probably would have been able to get away with a 3/8 ratchet, but you need a 21mm socket, and those aren't very common for the 3/8, so I've used a 1/2" ratchet for that. Yeah, that's pretty much all you need right there. Alright, so we covered the tools. So you got to get your driver's side vent off, get the air intake off. And this is just going to be a bottom line up front real quick. I'm going to disconnect the shift cable from both the mounting bracket and the shifter arm. And then you're going to unbolt the slave bracket from the transmission. And finally, you're going to unbolt this nut here, which holds the shifter arm on. And in our case, then we'll get to the select arm. Okay? So one thing at a time. Let's get started. Okay, so depending on how you might have a lever, a twist style lever for your vent tie down, or you might have a screw. This one has a screw, no big deal. And I just dropped it. 1 second. Note to self, be careful, because now I gotta go looking for that screw. Anyway, moving on. Next, you're gonna pull your intake tube off. You can use a flathead, or I think a 8mm socket. Don't mind that. That's my oxygen sensor extension wire for the turbo kit that was on here. Alright. Next thing I think we're going to do is we're going to disconnect the shift cable by undoing this nut here, and then this wasn't even tight, so that's interesting. You would normally unbolt that, so let me get the tool and I'll be right back. Okay, so hopefully, alright, so this would be a 13. Mine's already loose for some reason, and this one is a 15, which you may have to break it loose a little bit. So get the, and you actually kind of have to hold that because the shift cable wants to move and it doesn't quite thread off on its own. Get the nut and the washer. There's a washer under there, you don't want to lose those. Cable's out. I'm going to go ahead and loosen that enough. Alright, get that up out the way. Next is we're going to move on to the slave, or the shifter cable and the clutch slave cylinder bracket. It's going to be 15s again. I'm going to get an extension real quick. Attempt to do this with this ratchet. It may take a little bigger ratchet to do this. Correction. You're going to want to unbolt your slave cylinder first. I believe it's a 13, but you need a long one. Yep, long 13. Sorry y'all, it's been a minute since I've done this. And by minute, I mean about 15 years, at least. There's 2 bolts for the slave cylinder. You want to get the slave cylinder loose, that way you're not fighting with it. Once the, oops, okay. Didn't really mean that to happen, but it works just the same. You can hold the, if you keep the tension off the of the slave cylinder off of the nut when it's loose, it'll help you unthread it. You can unthread it pretty much by hand, unless yours is really rusted out, which is possible given the age of these cars. Okay, so the slave bolts are right on top and bottom. Disconnect your slave cylinder. I'm trying to get that out of the way. Now, you can kind of see the 2 bolts right here and right here, the 15s. And you're gonna need a little bit bigger ratchet to bust those loose. Probably. I might be able to pull it off with nope, that's gonna take some, I'm gonna have to get a little cheater. So stay tuned and I'll be back. Alright, let's try this again. So my trusty jack handle love using this. It's never let me down before. Only tricky is I'm not going to be able to get a whole lot of movement out of it initially. There we go. Now, as you can see, that's out. You're going to retain your bolts and reuse them. You don't need to retain your slave ones. It comes with a new to give us some more room here. So you can kind of see 2 bolts holes right there. Next, I'm gonna try to get that nut off. He says it's you can use a 13/16 or it's not in the instructions, but the other size is a 21 millimeter. So I'm gonna use a 21, and I'm using a bigger ratchet because this is gonna, if I remember right, this has quite a bit of torque required. Oh, nope, I was wrong. So there's a nut, and again, another washer. May have to tap up on this a little bit. All right, so I'm gonna go get a little mallet, and I'm gonna try to tap on the shaft while I'm pulling up on the shift arm. See if that can break it loose. I don't think I can get anything up under there to pry it. Yeah, hang on 1 second. Okay, just took a few light taps while pulling up on the shift arm, which is actually pulling the select shaft, or the up. And so you tap the shaft right here, and it kind of pushes it down while you're pulling up on this, and it broke it loose. It only took a couple quick taps. Let me set this out the way. Now, with all that out of the way, I want you all to see this. And kind of see how I can wiggle that around around these bearings, right? That's play that is up and down movement that it moves, and that's just, in my case, it gives a little bit of a fit trying to get into first or second. But anyway, this is really helps. There's a cotter key holding this pin on. And let me find my pliers. Probably grabbed the wrong pliers. I bet I need needle nose for this. Oh, got it. Set that out the way. Trying to get this out and show this in the same. Okay, the pin's out the way, which we don't need to worry about, but this one, these bushings, well, let's do that. I thought I could get this out without, there we go. So now, let me get the bushings out and I'll show what I'm talking about here. These plastic bushings, they have 4 ends on them. You just squeeze on them and they come right out. Okay. The new shaft comes with not only the bushings, the shaft, but also the cotter key. So this is actually, you know, you don't really have to retain any of that. Let me get the, you got to get the, let me go ahead and put the bushings in. They go in fairly tight, which is good. It tells me it's going to tighten it up some. Finding key point here. I need to point this out. Is underneath here on the actual shift mechanism, there's a slot right here. And when you look at this knob here needs to go in that slot. So you kind of have to slide it in. There we go. Just like that. Now, try to feed this through one-handed. Okay, this ain't gonna work one-handed, so. All right, almost there. Okay, it's through. I just gotta figure out where that cotter keyhole was. Without dropping the cotter key, or cotter pin, whatever you want to say. I'm gonna pop it out real quick just so I can kind of see. Okay. I would suggest trying to keep it as vertical. Gives yourself more room. This would be a lot easier out of the car, but you can do it. I've only been working on this for what, probably 20 minutes. This might be the hardest part of the install, is getting this cotter pin in. Okay, I'm gonna do this. Give myself a little. Oh, okay. It's not quite there. That's why. Just a little bit. I think this is actually supposed to go the other way. That might give me, so let me see. Let me check that. If so, I'll pull it out and show you what I was talking about. Phone dropped. Okay. Okay, I think that's gonna be out far enough. Almost. Okay. So what I'm talking about here is this was on the other direction, and it needs a little bit of, this rubber piece was flipped around, and it needs that just a little bit right there to more or less get all the way in the hole. So now I just gotta squeeze it enough that I can get the pin in. There we go. Okay. Now, look at that. It's just a slight bit of wobble still, but it's definitely in there better. Next, go ahead and install the shift arm, and I'll be right back. Alright, let's see if I can compress it a little bit better now. Yeah, much better. So that, I would recommend that. Go ahead and take your reservoir cap off your master cylinder. Just make it that much easier. I'm cranking. It's almost there. Okay. Get the other one going. I'll snug them both up at the end. Okay, now that that's off, or on, I'm going to take the shifter cable, get it positioned, get these started. Alright, once that's done, I'm going to take your nut and washer that we're holding the shift cable to the shifter arm, put those on, but you need to adjust this first before you get it too crazy, because, and it might take some trial and error on your part. What was it? 13, wasn't it? I think it was. Nope, that was the 15. Okay. So now, what you want to do is I'm going to wash my hands real quick, and I'm going to meet you back inside the car. Alright, so don't mind my slop. That'll be covered in a later video on how to rebuild the shifter. However, way better. Alright, much more firmer, much more solid feeling. It'll feel even better once I fix this slop, which is the only place this can be coming from is the shifter, but I do have the parts to do that. So anyway, let's I'm gonna try to lay a side by side right of before and after right now. All right, so before you call yourself done with this, what you're gonna want to do is get the intake put back on. And as you can see, I've got my little jerry-rigged thing here, but in the turbo kit. But get the intake tube back on, so you don't necessarily need that to start the car, but might as well get it ready to go. And then what you're going to do is start it, and I would recommend, at least initially, to make sure your adjustment's right. It felt okay, but make sure that you can, when you can put it in first and reverse at least, then you can pull forward and back up without it like grinding or popping out of gear. So let me get the grate back on and we'll be right back. I apologize, this is loud. The car's just loud because of that short exhaust. But I'm gonna back up. Take the brake off. All right, forward. All right. That pretty much wraps it up. One project down, many more to follow. If you did find this video helpful, interesting, whatever, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It always helps. Stay tuned. Do have a lot more. I still have more stuff coming for this thing. We'll be basically restoring all the stuff that wears out on this car. So yeah, like I said, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And as always, I'll be back.